6 hours out of Bar Harbor, Maine, the Bluenose makes port at Yarmouth, Nova Scotia each day in the summer season. A bridge for you to cross over in all the luxury of an ocean liner from New England to visit in New Scotland for a holiday as different as can be imagined. The Bluenose, on which you travel east across the sparkling blue and open waters of the Bay of Fundy, is a motor ship of 6,000 tons, designed to combine speed and comfort, with a carrying capacity of 600 passengers and 150 automobiles. And she bears the proudest name a Nova Scotian ship can carry, handed down from the undefeated queen of the North Atlantic sailing fleets. The Bluenose plies the old trade route between New England and the ancient province that has been for 300 years a highway of history, the road of the New England militiamen who fought the French on Nova Scotian soil, and the path the United Empire Loyalists followed north after the War of Independence. It's an old road to the oldest corner of the New World. Where is this Bluenose country? Well, there it is in relation to New England and the cities of the seaboard states. Eastward, it lies in the cool trade winds of the summer, a sea-girt land where not an inch of ground is more than 50 miles from tidewater, where some of the most picturesque shore scenery is to be found less than a morning's drive from your landing point at Yarmouth. And even though Yarmouth was, long ago, Canada's most famous port of sailing ships, its dock facilities are the most modern. You drive your own car on and off the Bluenose with no more fuss than you would need to patronize your favorite parking garage. Once ashore in Nova Scotia, the holiday mood is there to greet you. It may be Bluenose Day in Yarmouth and a parade. And like so much else in this friendly, hospitable province, a blending of the old and the new. Of course, in Canada's ocean playground, there are all the modern summer sports, but where else would you see an oxen pulling contest? An age-old sport among the farm folk of Normandy who brought their traditions and their methods here 300 years ago. And many are the farmers of the French shore who still prefer the old ways to the new, even to the patient oxen. Not as exciting as a horse race? Now that's a matter of opinion. And to these owners, the pace is not so important as the pull. The weight of the load is increased by 200 pounds at a time until, with a straight pull and without the help of wheels, more than 4,200 pounds dead weight is dragged against the natural friction. Traction is the answer. And after the fun of the fair, the patient beasts return to the mundane chores of farm life on the French shore, to haul the ancient hay wains, drag the plow or the hay rake, or team the timbers for the fish boats out of the nearby forest. Here, along the shore of the misty Atlantic, as Longfellow says in the closing lines of Evangeline, linger a few Acadian peasants, whose fathers from exile wandered back to their native land to die in its bosom. In the fisherman's cot, the wheel and the loom are still busy. Maidens still wear their Norman caps and their kirtles of homespun. And the life of the farmer-fisherman goes on at a gentle pace, fixed long ago in a different, quieter age to the pace of these strong but gentle animals. And there is always time to stop for a cooling drink from the old mill stream. The towns and villages of the Bluenose province are connected by the finest highway system in the east, but side trips off the pavement to explore the reasons for the gravel country roads, why they begin and where they end, often reward the traveler with jewels of beauty and quaint charm. Even the most remote and unimportant byway is clearly marked on the provincial highway maps. Along the highways, the traveler has a choice of fine inns and restaurants, as this one on the French shore at Metegan River, an old shipbuilding town in the days of sail and still an active fishing port. Here, as in so many small fishing communities in the old province, the fishermen have the shipwright skill as well, and their boats come from their own woodlots back on the hills. The tracery of masts and spars and shrouds among old docks is always a favorite subject with the camera fan. At Cape St. Mary is a typical lobster fishing port. These rugged, all-weather, all-season craft, called Cape boats, were mothered by necessity and improved by generations of hardy fishermen who go after this most valuable of all catches. The winter winds of Fundy and the salt sea air have weathered everything at Cape St. Mary: the boats, the fish sheds, the houses and the wharves, and the faces of the fisher folk, tinting all with the subtle colorings of hard use in a hard trade. But the visitor will find a pastoral gentleness in the scene and in the people that belies the rigors of the life here. There is time to talk of the winter work. There are many things about his life and work the fisherman can and will explain to the interested inquirer. And if he's really fond of shellfish, at Grosse Coq, no boat or tackle is required. All a fisherman needs is a garden fork and a bucket. A hay fork or a spade, or even a pointed stick will do. The giant tides of Fundy twice a day obligingly lay bare miles and miles of clam beds to provide the main course for an incomparable shore dinner. You should try them, steamed in seawater and dripping country butter. To so many who live along this shore, the sea is a livelihood and at times a stern master. But to the visitor, on a sunny summer day, the crystal clear, clean waters off this unspoiled, unpeopled beach mean something very different. A swim in the sun. And this beach is but one of thousands on every side, uncrowded, yes, unused, and waiting for you to stop by. The 50 to 60-foot tides of Fundy, exposing miles of sand to the sun, use this radiant heat method to warm the salt waters of St. Mary's Bay to the ideal temperature for bathing. And some of the old Atlantic's loveliest reaches of sand await the imprint of your feet, await the building of your children's sand castles, await your own Bluenose holiday, your rest from the busy 20th century in this old seaside province that now is so close by. Perhaps the quiet to be found along the shore is what will impress you most. In summer, the whole coast seems to be resting in the sun. The children rest from their books, their classes and homework. The boats that rest from their fishing season. The myriad lobster traps at rest from the murky depths of the offshore shoals. The lighthouses that stand on every headland, resting permanently now from the rowdy, dangerous days of sail. But in season, among the quiet days, are the exciting ones, the days of the outdoor sportsman, as at Beaver Dam, where once a year the crack woodsmen and guides of New England and the Maritimes meet to test their skills in a long list of competitions, the skills of axe and rifle, rod and line, paddle and canoe. To see those abilities put to the test of competition, crowds gather from all over the eastern states and provinces. And a great favorite among professional woodsmen and spectators alike is the log burling contest. The rules are simple, and the game derives from the serious business of log driving on the rivers, where a well-developed sense of balance and a nimbleness of foot are staked in an ancient gamble with sudden death. At Beaver Dam, the worst that befalls the loser is wet pants and a red face. Firearms these days are so improved, and marksmen becoming so expert, that many sportsmen are reverting to the bow and arrow or to the old-time muzzle loader to get the sportsmanship back into hunting. But when the best rifle shots in the province get together, it's only the poor workman who dares to blame his tools. He may not have rifling in the barrel and no more sights than a shotgun, but when he aims that one, his muzzle will be halfway to the target. He has friends there to pick him up afterward. He shoots, he scores. And how he scores? Well, goes to show you can't beat a good eye and a steady pull. Wherever you travel in Nova Scotia, the road leads to tidewater. The cool blue-green of the sea waits at the end of any journey. And to pass upon the water, the boats are there in their thousands. You have seen some of the workboats of the fishermen, but there are many built and launched in the name of pleasure. Surely in summer there is nothing more pleasant than an ocean breeze, and especially a breeze of your own making. The passing of the air in a swift boat on the calm water of a sheltered bay, like a gull in flight, fast yet graceful. A moving finger that writes in white on a blue surface the brief log of a summer's voyage. A trip that's told in happiness, not distance traveled. How lumbering and ugly by comparison the carriers of commerce. How far away on such an afternoon all thoughts of business and a world at work. Shelburne, the Loyalist town, has many points of interest, and one of the most apparent is this old well in the middle of a main thoroughfare, and just as it has done since the 1780s, it brings up cold water for the thirsty and performs the newer function of posing for camera shots. And that, too, is the only useful function left to the old millstone at Yarmouth, to frame a pretty face for an admiring photographer. Long since its chore of grinding grain for an early settlement was done. All over Nova Scotia, even the distant past seems very close and real, as here where the first Acadian settlers completed their journey. This is one of the oldest cemeteries in the New World. They believed in God and the dignity of simple toil, and this tradition still goes on upon the self-same acres which they first broke to plow 3 centuries ago. A man, his horse, and a field of new-mown hay. A soft sound and fragrance in a summer evening. Sandford is surely one of the most picturesque of all the fishing villages, and the only one we know of anywhere with an honest-to-goodness drawbridge. In this case, the function is both useful and ornamental, though we must admit the oriental look is purely accidental. Taking advantage of the summer sun, Sandford is drying fish on the flakes, an old method and still in use, because there is none better to hard-cure cod and pollock for the markets of South America and the West Indies, where the fishermen of Nova Scotia have traded for generations, and still do, in their own ships. Bluenose sailormen have always been great seafarers and traders round the world, and their ships have always come from their own forests, and still do. And still men ply the ancient shipwright skill with adze, broadaxe, and caulking hammer. The native pine and birch, oak, and rock maple are shaped into fine, sturdy craft to carry men and cargoes to the fishing banks or to the southern trade. Even the smell of a shipyard, fresh-hewn wood, wood smoke, tarry marlin, and a workhorse is worth a long trip to experience. And fish boats come in all shapes and sizes, as varied as their many uses. These go out to gather Irish moss, a valuable crop waiting between tides on the ocean floor to be raked from the rocks of the shore by long-handled rakes and manpower. After drying in the sun, the moss is packed in bags and bales to go to market. Its greatest use is in chocolate milk and ice cream, or is used as an important healing and soothing agent in pharmacy. From the seashore, a demulcent. Another crop falls to the eelgrass pickers. This harvest of long, tough leaves is dried too in the sun and goes eventually to insulation and synthetic fibers and for packing. For a man who wants to keep busy, the sea provides an abundance of crops. There is always lots to do, and the doing of it provides the visitor with a wealth of both questions and camera angles. The Bluenose holiday season is long. It reaches from the trout and salmon season in early April on into the golden days of autumn. And many who know the province well say that it saves the best until the last. Many a man finds his greatest pleasure of the year in the fall with his dog and gun working the upland woods for game birds. Any hunter will agree that the close companionship that grows between a man and a dog as they both stalk the fast and wily Hungarian partridge is a rich thing to have known. In this small second growth is where you find them, and Tommy's job is to flush them out. And he does. The woods are full of them. The guide, the hunter, and his dog share pride and congratulations over the trophy. It has been said that Nova Scotia, surrounded by the sea, is itself half water. Myriad lakes, both large and small, abound, and in the remoter forest regions are a delight at every season to the fisherman who reveres the speckled trout. But whether you fish or not, these inland waters, to be found today just as God made them, are worth the journey merely to look upon. This is the calm that comes with autumn, the dawns that give you just a hint of coming frost. It is the season that the red man called the hunter's moon, and through the misty marshes, the guns go out for deer. An early start may catch the quarry at its morning drinking place. And remember, a good guide ensures a bag. The game tag attesting to your license is attached, and it's time to start the journey home. The guides of Nova Scotia are the finest in the world, and their equipment, canoes, and camps are the finest anywhere. Perhaps most important, they're a fine lot of men, skilled woodsmen and good companions. But high among the specialists are placed the tuna guides of Wedgeport, the mecca of the big game sports fishermen. They take a great pride in their boats and gear, these Wedgeport men, and every fall as the tuna meet draws near, paint and polish is the daily chore for weeks ahead of time. Then it's out to Soldier's Rip, the world's most famous fishing hole, in the first flush of an autumn dawn, to try your luck and skill against the greatest fishermen on earth. These are the famous Cape boats of the South Shore, and the fishermen represent most every country of the world where big game fishing is regarded as a sport, and the competition is for international teams. The sunrise finds all the competitors at their stations over the bluefin tuna's favorite feeding ground, a furious tide rip on the southwest corner of the province where the great floods of Fundy swing down to meet the open sea. Here, the fleet trolls slowly and waits for a bite. The yellow flag goes up to signal a strike and warn the other boats for need of sea room. Now that the competitor has hooked a fish, he's severely on his own. No one can help him, though he break his back. His guide's work is over now until the fish is brought to boat. His hands tell him it's a big one, but he only sees his dorsal fin and has to guess the weight. Once the fish is played out and brought to boat, the guide can help with the gaff hook. Not the biggest, but useful in a competition. That's one kind of fish head you don't throw to the cat. And of course, at a time like this, you show the old team spirit, although you wish you'd caught him. But fishing time is up, and the boats return from Soldier's Rip for the weighing in. Here to the pier at Wedgeport comes the day's catch. The official weighing in takes place, and the judges announce the team scores. The crowd shows its admiration for a record catch, and that fella is a record. The band obliges with Hail the Conquering Hero, as the losers carry the winners to the nearby Guides Club, possibly for a cup of tea. As evening falls, there are many who pause to reflect on the pleasures of a Bluenose holiday.